I've been out of the loop for a bit, trying and frankly failing to organize the next promotion. It is, surprisingly, perhaps, harder than you might think to convince people to allow themselves to be promoted. So that project is on hold for the moment. Since my perceived defense of Islam, people have been asking me about my worldview, so I thought I'd take the opportunity this weekend to outline it. It will take some explaining, and it's intimately linked to my journey from faith to apostasy, so here goes. I grew up in Ireland and moved to South Africa when I was 12. This gave me a unique opportunity to switch perspectives from being a member of an oppressed group, the Troubles in Northern Ireland were fully underway at the time, to joining a group engaging in oppression. Apartheid was in full bloom. After my stint in the South African Defence Force in the late 80s, I left South Africa. However, this left me searching for a lot of philosophical answers on the subject of justice, and my religious convictions, although still strong and integral to my person at the time, were struggling to provide them. It was clear that for a given society to function, people should be treated with equal respect, yet Christianity tacitly insisted that only a unique and elite group were truly God's people. For me, this was first and foremost only the members of the large megachurch I was attending at the time. During my army days, and especially once I had entered ministry, I came in contact with such a broad spectrum of fellow Christians that I was compelled to expand my in-group to include all Protestants, finally all Christians, and eventually stretched to even Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. I came to the conclusion that the detail of the dogma could not be as important as people's relationship to God. This state of play persisted for a few years until I began to run into Muslims, a hitherto completely alien group. As I got to know some individuals personally, I realized that all the objections that had forced an expansion of my Christian worldview to embrace all co-religionists applied here as well, and so I gradually embraced the idea that God must accept all theists on whatever cultural terms the context of their upbringing provides. I have, of course, condensed about 2 decades of personal growth here. My changing worldview, the recognition that people were people everywhere, eventually overwhelmed the capacity of my religious convictions to adapt. No matter how you examined it, either religious dogma was overtly unjust and exclusive, or so denuded as to be worthless, which of course it is. So I gradually drifted out of my religious circle, but the journey had undermined more than merely my religious convictions. It had also shorn me of any nationalist or racist sentiments. I had lived in Ireland, South Africa, Germany, the UK and Sweden. I had married a Swede. I spoke Swedish, English and German fluently, and could read several other languages. In principle, I was a citizen of the world, with ready access to travel, employment and a decent life. Yet it gradually dawned on me that I was once again part of a ruling and empowered minority, a group that was implicated in the oppression of not just millions, but billions of powerless fellow creatures. I was a white South African again. Fuck. This time, gutlessly leaving was not an option. Barring the first colony ships to Mars, we are stuck here together, for better or worse. Then along came the Iraq War, the in-your-face lies and injustice that this war embodies, that George Bush personifies, his nauseating exploitation of fundamentalist Christianity. All of this killed off the last vague vestiges of religious conviction and reignited my sense of outrage with regard to injustice. Over the course of the last 5 years, I have come to the conclusion that the only thing that will prevent mechanized slaughter and outrages like the Iraq War are binding global laws that would criminalize such behavior. It really is that simple. Such arrangements already exist everywhere on the planet, within our cities, our nation-states and vast supranational regions like the European Union, India and China. It is simply, and I use that word for its irony value, a question of extending the laws that function perfectly at all of these other levels to a planetary scale. If you are watching this, you are, probably, like me, the global 21st century analog of the white South African of the late 80s. You know the current arrangements that you benefit from are deeply flawed and hideously unjust. You know that in some indefinable sense, even your inaction perpetuates this situation. Worse still, if you are an atheist, you're keenly aware that this life is all there is, and that the billions leading short, brutal lives of unabridged anguish are never going to be recompensed unless it occurs here in this life. Your sense of empathy, honed and developed by millions of years of evolution, is attuned to the misery being inflicted on these fellow human beings because communications technology now delivers the horror to your doorstep. So, that's how I got here and where I'm currently at. Comments and psychoanalysis welcome.